like looking at the existing um, offers that are there. There's liquidity ads on one side, on C Lightning. That's a protocol level experience. Lisa Nygaard did a phenomenal job on liquidity ads, but it wasn't adopted at the spec level. And Lightning Labs has Pool, which is available only if you're on LND. But what we've constructed with Magma is open to anyone on the Lightning Network. So you don't need to be running a specific implementation, and we can have that interoperability that you would expect with an open network.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Changing the Tide. Today I welcome Jesse of Amboss, also known as Jessifer_BTC on Twitter. Amboss is a Lightning Network explorer, and you can go on, you can create a profile, claim your node, join groups, and see what all is going on the Lightning Network, or I guess more of it than you could without it. And so they even have some stats which we read out on the show on the Lightning Network. And so in addition to the Clark Moody dashboard, we looked at Lightning stats through Amboss. They recently announced Magma, a way for anyone to buy and sell channels. And so we'll dive into that as well. But overall, I'm very excited, and let's get to the show with Jesse. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
I'm stoked, man. This is take 2, so today's going to be better. So normally I start with the Clark Moody Bitcoin dashboard, but as you so graciously pointed out yesterday, Amboss has some great Lightning stats. And so why don't we start with those?
Yeah, I can see the node count is 16,112. We've got 81,259 channels, and the overall capacity in Bitcoin terms of the public Lightning Network is 3,823 Bitcoin. It looks like the mempool is up, and I'm seeing about 15 sats per byte in order to open a channel or get a transaction through.
Nice. Yeah. Someone just loaded the mempool up a few days back, a couple days ago. But you can still, with I guess 16 sats per byte, you can get your transactions in the next block.
Yeah, it's I wonder like who would want to pay that much, but just to maybe reorganize transactions, but it seemed to be a big block of transactions.
And all on legacy addresses, it looked like.
Oof. Okay. Come on, SegWit was what, 4 years ago now? Time to upgrade, folks.
Time to upgrade for sure. And from Clark's dashboard, you can exchange 29,710 US dollars right now on average across all the exchanges for one full Bitcoin. And there are 15,778 reachable Bitcoin nodes, and 55% of those are running on Tor. And we have started, I think we were at either 736,264 block height, or we're now at 265. So for posterity's sake, mempool, 68,263 transactions waiting there. It's just crazy. So, whoo! So yeah, I will go ahead and stop sharing there, and let's just talk about Amboss. Jesse, what is Amboss?
Let's see. Amboss is the German word for anvil, and we thought that fit pretty well with all of the Thor, lightning, and hammer imagery that's in the Lightning space. But Amboss.space is a Lightning Network Explorer, and that's one of the key tools to use on the Lightning Network. So what we've done basically with over 16,000 nodes on the Lightning Network, we've given each of the nodes a profile page essentially, and you can look up data and statistics about each individual Lightning node. We've also enabled the ability to put contact information. So you can actually get in contact with that person. It's not necessary to put any personal information on there, and some of the more privacy focused people would just put a burner email address. But what we found is that um, Amboss is helping nodes coordinate on the Lightning Network, and thereby making a more efficient and robust Lightning Network as a whole. So you can go on there, figure out which nodes you want to connect to, also find out what the market is, and also get in contact with some of your peers. We've also added communities, so you can join different communities on the Lightning Network, whether you want to show which country your node is in, or the fact that you're part of PlebNet, or yeah, whatever you want. Anyone can create a community if they'd like.
Oh man, so it's almost a social layer on top of Lightning in a way.
There's definitely some social elements to it. We've added some fun things recently. The key send billboard. So the people that kind of are have been in Lightning for a while, and maybe the kind of hackers, um, you might know that you can actually encode a message inside of a Lightning payment. And you can do that without needing an invoice. So basically, you just kind of drop messages on whoever you're paying, since you're sending inside of a payment. And so we've created a billboard on the homepage, so you can write whatever you want to Amboss, encode it in a payment, and we'll just sort it according to how much you paid. So yeah, you can see some high-paying messages on there, or we do see a lot of people just testing out key send messaging on their different platforms.
That's cool because I'm noticing right here on the Keeson billboard, there was a 5 sat. I guess it must have been a 5 sats that DZ paid about 17 hours ago to talk about get a balanced channel from me, 30 Bitcoin capacity, 190 plus channels. And so it's really really fascinating. Some of them are just like hello. So it's pretty exciting.
It's it's pretty silly. The feature that we've just rolled out, and we haven't really announced this much, but you can actually include the pub key of whoever you want to write a message to inside of a key send message to Amboss, and it will write it on their node page as well.
Whoa.
So it's almost like an early uh, Facebook wall or whatever. But yeah, without all of Facebook, we just process it automatically. And um, so yeah, if you want to write a review on someone's node or send them a nice message, you can go do that, and it'll show up on their node page.
Very cool. So I thought German is actually my second language. So when I heard Amboss, and especially with the guy like in the Lightning Store sticker, your guy who's holding the hammer, I was like, oh, it's got to have something to do with the anvil. So that's interesting. Um, so your co-founder is behind ThunderHub, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So Anthony, or Tony IOI on Twitter, um, he is a fantastic full stack developer now. His background is mechanical engineering, mine's environmental engineering, and he got into web development and became a full stack developer. So um, yeah, he started with ThunderHub, and that's actually how we met, just anonymously in Twitter and Telegram chats. He was working on ThunderHub. I was an early user, and had a whole bunch of feedback. And so later on, he reached out asking if I wanted to team up to uh, build a company and build some cool services. And here, almost 2 years later, yeah, we've got Amboss and we've got some real products rolling out.
And for those who we did this in take one, but I want you to do it again because you did such a great job explaining. But the differences between, let's say, Amboss as a network explorer and what ThunderHub does, and how they might actually work together as well.
Yeah. So ThunderHub is open source, whereas Amboss is closed source. Um, and the idea is, with ThunderHub, it actually has access to private keys. It's a node manager. So this is where you're going to manage your channels, change your fee rates, sign messages, and also kind of analyze things on your node. Um, but it's all it's running on people's nodes themselves and has access to the private key. So you need that to be open source. It's pretty hard to monetize open source projects unless you're going to be doing type of support type things. But with an actual company behind ThunderHub, and that's where like Amboss comes in. We're actually like bringing Lightning Network information into your node. So if you want to load the aliases of all your peers on the Lightning Network a little bit faster and not have to attack your Raspberry Pi node with all these queries, we can actually like serve those for you. And this is all like opt-in stuff. So if you want to, enable these services from Amboss to make your node a little bit more powerful, we can do that. So all of the tools that Amboss looks at, where it's like network wide, we can bring those into your node, um, while still protecting that private key and having all those open source security features that you would want.
Wow, wow. Okay, and then you can opt into to Amboss with, like you just mentioned, as little as a throwaway burner email.
Yeah, actually, in order to log into Amboss, all that's required is that you sign a message with your node's private key. So that's not handing over your private key, it's proving that you have a key. And so we're using cryptography to do that.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean that's what people have been wanting a certain nefarious actor to do for years to prove that he is, who he claims to be, but just can't do it. So,
It's really not that hard. So with Lightning, it makes it quite easy to do that. And if you want to get really abstract with it, you can think of a node as like a hardware-based identity in this like social network that we have on Amboss.
yeah, I think I've been fascinated because at first everything Lightning related just seemed to be the payment layer, which it is, but then you realize how much of what the current infrastructure is on payments relies on things like social identity, reputation, that sort of thing. And so this next wave seems to be, and maybe talk about this a little bit, it really does seem to be adding beyond payments much more about people's uh, identity. I don't want to say social status, but definitely at least reputation. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's something that we're playing um, with our latest release on Magma, but it's always been part of it. We noticed Lightning Labs came out with some scoring with their terminal web. They do some ranking of nodes as well as and that's like ranking the performance. It started off with the Boz score, which was just an opaque score. It drove node operators crazy because they wanted to be the best, but they had no idea what was part of the calculation of that score. And like one of them was the top. Well, why is that one the top? Why can't I be the top? Um, and it was kind of a crack up because like if you're gonna it's like studying to the test Where it's like the SAT like might measure you in some way, but like, well, what if the test is just measuring dumb things? It really doesn't matter. But for there's also other metrics that you can look at from a more mathematical point of view. LN node insight, for example, provides some great metrics on graph theory. So it would be like the betweenness centrality. And uh, like, okay, this gets like pretty nerdy, but all the betweenness centrality is if you take all of the nodes on the network and you make a payment, uh, go from one to all of the others, how many times is your node on the shortest path between those two nodes? And so out of that calculation comes a number, and that can tell you basically how central you are on the network graph.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So are you and are you on the shortest hops? Because obviously, like you would like that because routing fees wise, you want to decrease those as much as possible when you're making a payment.
Uh, and it kind of depends on what you're optimizing for, because you can be the most central node on the network just by opening a channel to all of the other nodes. um, you can maximize your betweenness centrality. Will you be a good node? Absolutely not. You will be a terrible node because the channel sizes are tiny, and you may still have awful liquidity management because your channels are tiny. Um, so, anyways, with when we're reporting these scores, we're pretty much just doing it as objectively as possible. I don't think Amboss really wants to tell you whether you're a good node or not, but what we can report to you is here's a bunch of metrics, and if you subscribe to us, we'll show you the history so you can see your growth over time and whether you're improving or not.
Okay, yeah. And so this is something that's interesting because since Lightning is peer to peer, you by the way, shout out to the ball or mason jar with water because that's forget microplastics and all the other, right? Okay, I
Yeah,
lost my train of thought.
how funny.
The yeah, what were we just saying? Oh, so Lightning. Oh my gosh! Of course, I just lost. What was I talking about, Jesse?
You were talking, I kind of lost it as well.
Shoot. Well, I think overall the idea was with Lightning. Well, if it comes back to me, I'll get there. Let's talk about Magma and like what it is. So, um, I had a session with Tim at Ellen Pay 21, which is a couple ago, and you retweeted on Twitter that like it ain't easy being a routing node. So we've talked about it a little bit in that way, but like why is it not easy uh, to always be a routing node?
Hmm. Okay. There's a couple of things. One, the tools are not user friendly right now, and that's when we went down to El Salvador, and I gave a little talk at Adopting Bitcoin about Lightning. Realized there's just steep learning curve. Not only do you have to understand Lightning, but you have to understand Bitcoin and kind of how these things fit together, as well as having some basic technical skills right now to assemble a Raspberry Pi and run the software. Okay, not that difficult. Um, and I think people can do it. It's a little bit difficult, but lots of educational pieces are coming out. Another is um, there's not good information because the Lightning Network is very private by default. So the only information that we can provide to our users is information that is one already public, or two what people give us that we can relay. So that puts you in a tough spot because uh, is this is this route going to work? I can see on the public network graph that there is a channel there, but where is the balance allocated? Can I send it from A to B, or can I only send it from B to A? And I don't know that until I attempt it. And each attempt, I'm actually taking Bitcoin and I have to actually attempt the full payment. So if you want to figure out if I can buy a car through this one channel or through several channels, I'm gonna have to allocate that amount of funds to seeing if I can make that payment go through and see if it fails or not. So it's costly to find out if I can get payments to go through. So with that, like privacy by default, there's lots of liquidity issues that pop up. The other thing is, I don't know if you've heard the phrase, if you've got a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and so like the hammer that most novices are equipped with is the rebalance tool on their Lightning node. Now, that is not always the best tool to be used to fix liquidity issues. You can spend just about all of your sats just trying to do rebalances to no benefit. If you want your channels to be perfectly balanced, you can, without knowing it, get into a rebalance war with your peers and spend a whole bunch of fees on the Lightning Network and just kind of making this liquidity slosh back and forth. Um, will that help you be a good routing node? Probably not. But the other tool that you have is opening channels and closing channels. And that is something that we've hopefully made a little bit easier with Magma, because now you can just buy and sell channels from other places on the network.
That's cool. And so going back to the earlier conversation, I figured out what I was wanting to ask. But the thought is that, like you just mentioned, Lightning is peer to peer, not like global in the sense that all transactions are broadcast like the Bitcoin blockchain. You're actually creating your own little network, within the larger network. And as long as your implementations are interoperable and you choose the payment methods that, like a Bolt 11 invoice, for instance, a Bolt 12 invoice might not work with every peer that you have. And so, that being said, what's interesting there is now you're adding in, you guys are trying, it seems like trying to slide in and become like hey, there's not a lot of information, things are private. So how do we, maybe make social interaction a little bit easier so that we can make it easier to route payments? And then B, why don't we make a marketplace? You're essentially entering the Lightning service provider space with Magma, correct?
In a way, I think the way that I really like what you said about Lightning being peer to peer, and it's true. I mean, from early days of Lightning, it's really servers talking to servers. But what's actually happening is there's a financial relationship that is going on there, and we can be part of making that making communication happen a little bit better to establish a market. Um, for In terms of being a Lightning service provider, an LSP, um, the way that Roy Scheinfeld described it from Breeze was imagine like a kind of a liquidity provider. At least that's I think that's kind of how it's interpreted now, where you've got a big stack of Sats, and now you can deploy those to like enable the functionality of wallets, like Breeze. I mean, fantastic service that you can have a non-custodial experience using Breeze. And that's like backed by another company that has a whole bunch of Bitcoin that they can use for that purpose. What we're doing on Magma is not so much a directly like company to um, user relationship. It's a much more peer-to-peer experience. So anyone can go to Magma and list an offer to allocate their Bitcoin in a channel to you. So we've done it so that someone else can buy it from you. But there's a trust problem that happens. I don't I can pay you Lightning, but then you've received it. Now send over the goods. Wait, no, you didn't send over the goods. Okay, now I just sent Bitcoin, and there's no taking it back. So what this needs is a solution around the trust. So what we've done with Magma is we're sitting in the middle of this transaction. We are a trusted third party for the between receiving a Lightning invoice and actually having that channel open. But what we do is we sit in the middle and we block the Lightning payment from going through until we see that the channel has been open and received 3 confirmations. Um, and after about 10 minutes, we'll release the Lightning payment. So it will go to the person that has proven to us that they've opened the channel.
Okay, so trying to maybe decrease, you know, typically people are like, what about 6 confirmations? So you're trying to decrease so it's not like a full hour that they, but you at least want a few to go through.
Yeah, there are some technical limitations using HODL invoices, which is what we're employing to do this very simple smart contracting. So with the HODL invoices, it depends on the route of the payment, how long we can keep it open. If we keep it open too long, the channel will force close. So we have to be really careful. And this is a trade-off between, okay, are you looking for a complete certainty that this won't be undone?
Yeah.
And do you want to avoid the expensive cost of a forced close? And I think a lot of people want to avoid that cost of a forced close. So we're being quite conservative with the avoiding the forced close, but also recognizing that that a Bitcoin transaction is actually uh, quite permanent. I mean, 3 confirmations is a lot of confirmations. Is
Right.
it perfectly uh, resistant to uh, being a reversible or being double spent? Like no, but it's pretty good enough.
Yeah, I was just about to pull out the white paper and look at that. I don't know, I forget if it's the last page, but Satoshi did some math on like the proper probability drop off after like specific amount of confirmations, and three's
Yeah.
pretty good.
It's
So
just, yeah, this is a design choice that we've made. But like looking at the existing um, offers that are there, there's liquidity ads on one side, on C Lightning. That's a protocol level experience. Lisa Neiget did a phenomenal job on liquidity ads, but it wasn't adopted at the spec level. And Lightning Labs has Pool, which is available only if you're on LND. But what we've constructed with Magma is open to anyone on the Lightning Network. So you don't need to be running a specific implementation, and we can have that interoperability that you would expect with an open network.
cool. So your cross implementation, you're able to use it across implementations.
So overall, this is just a big move to lower the barrier to entry on this market. With that, we've noticed. I mean, of course, we've got plebs that have posted an offer and taken on orders on Magma, but what we also see is some of the larger companies actually get involved. LQWD, for example, is a publicly traded Lightning company in Canada, and we've also seen Blocktank as part of Synonym, and I think a relationship with Bitfinex has is actually participating as well. So we've got all different levels that are participating from the club level all the way up to the company level.
That's cool. I mean, because I think who you were referring to, Liquid Tech, they're the ones behind Breeze. Is that who you were referring to?
I wasn't sure if that was public information, but yes, that's right.
Okay. I can always cut it out, but I thought I saw it somewhere publicly. So,
Okay.
but in any case, yeah, that's awesome that you guys are going across implementations. I mean, I think that's a very interesting thing to talk about right now because you do have, um, I don't want to call it a spec or protocol or implementation war, but there are things that are happening across different implementations that aren't interoperable with each other. Um, and there's a question about when those things will be, or if they ever will be adopted. So kudos to you guys for doing what you can to make this I'm on LDK, that person's on LND, or I'm on Core Lightning and they're on LND. So
I think the network wins when we can work together. Of course, like each of both L and D and C Lightning have their own priorities and their own vision of how to build this. And we don't need consensus, so we can slap together a system that will make these two talk to each other. And yeah, now this is available as another tool in the toolbox to get liquidity going and to make that the problem of getting inbound liquidity a little bit easier so that people can receive payments on the Lightning Network.
love it. Love it. Okay, so I'm looking at your guys' site here too, and specifically on verified ownership. And I'm seeing a pretty sweet graph here of verified nodes over time. And so as of today, you're sitting at 4,525 verified owners. Just in terms of what that means, can you explain to people like the verified ownership concept that you guys have at Amboss?
Sure. So that basically means that they have signed a message and proved to us that someone owns the node. They can do that manually using Thunderhub or Ride the Lightning to sign the message. And I believe Umbrel has an option like that as well. Um, but there's also a one-click login from Thunderhub, and that would count as well. And so that just automatically sends a signed message to Amboss, and we can say, yep, they've claimed their node now. But that's there's it's proof that you own the node, but not a privacy violation. We're not able to figure out what your private key is from a bunch of signatures. It's one of the properties of this digital signature algorithm. Um, but what that means for the verified owners is that that means 28% of the Lightning Network has claimed their node on Amboss. So that tells us that not only are we providing a product that is useful, but people are willing to put in a little bit of effort to take control of the information that is posted on their node page and interact with Amboss.
That's cool. And so, as far as your guys, I guess, revenue model, like if you verified, you have to like pay a certain subscription, or is there a subscription for access to more of the information you guys provide? What does that look like, as much as you're able to share?
Sure. Yeah, that's all public stuff. We could probably do a better job of laying it out there. But claiming your node costs you nothing, and it only allows you to customize the information on your node page. So that means adding contact information. And you can choose whether you want to add your email, your Telegram, or your Twitter. And then from there we can verify that it is your Twitter and you do own that handle. But when it comes to subscriptions, what people are paying for is you get a custom URL, so it'll be amboss.space/c/ whatever you want. And then the other piece is adding a logo to your node page. If you look at Kraken's node page, for example, they've decked it out with their awesome logo. So really a big fan of that. And the third piece is that with the subscription, you get access to historical information. So if you want to look at how uh, your betweenness has changed for a node, like you can do that, and you can see a nice graph of that historical information. And now with Magma, if you want to buy and sell channels without paying a fee, you can do that if you're a subscriber, paid member.
That's very cool. Yeah, I was just looking at the Kraken page, and it's pretty incredible to see all of these just stats overall, and like for Kraken, for instance, like what's outgoing versus what's incoming in terms of the fees, um, and what are the capacity, how many channels, and of course Kraken coming on board. You guys, several people found their node on here, but it wasn't verified yet. But you were pretty much like people basically broke the news that Kraken finally instituted Lightning Network.
Uh,
That's got to feel kind of cool.
It was really cool. The first tweet I saw was Corey Clipston tweeting out. He's like, "Hey, what's this?" And seeing the Kraken node on the Lightning Network graph, and he showed an Amboss page. So for us as a company of it was just two of us at the time. Now it's four, and it was just it was big for us. We got a whole bunch of traffic and some additional press out of it. And like I don't know if that turned into any form of revenue for us, but what it meant is the Lightning Network is cool. And the only way that we make money as a company right now is if people run Lightning nodes. So we want that decentralized future. Yeah, if you don't run a node, we can't really get your money. So, but the money that we do take is for providing like good services to nodes, and we hope that it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really funny because I'm looking at Kraken right now, just as another example, and it's like they it shows they have an Amboss subscription. It also shows they're part of PlebNet, Diamond Hands, Satoshi Radio, Lightning and L. Like they're part of these groups too. So that's crazy.
That made me really happy to see, because the way that we have community set up is that if you want to join a community, um, you can like kind of construct a request, and then you have to go into that community and you have to share the link and go get pre-approvals. So they went into the PlebNet group. Pierre Rochard went in there, was asking
Let's
for
go.
approvals from PlebNet to let him into the community so he can have the PlebNet community tag on his node page. Man, I love the idea that like a big company, a well-respected, regulated company in the Bitcoin and Lightning space is having to come to PlebNet saying, "Let me in."
Yeah, I mean, one of the founders of the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute had to ask for access to PlebNet.
Yeah, it brought me a lot of joy to see that. And like on the social piece, it's my thinking that the Lightning will very much become a moral economy. So by opening a channel to someone else, you're enabling access uh, to the Lightning financial system. That enables you to receive payments. If I want you to be part of the Lightning economy, I have to open a channel to you, or someone has to do it. And so like what we see with like OnlyFans and all these other instances where um, companies or groups have been cut off from the financial system, uh, Lightning really flattens that. So like anyone that says actually like OnlyFans provides really important service, I'll create the financial rails myself, and I don't need Visa or MasterCard to support what they're doing because someone else is supporting what they're doing and connecting them to the financial system.
Or say the Freedom Convoy, right? A few months ago in Canada, or a political dissident in Hong Kong, or you name it,
Yeah,
right?
this is
By opening.
this is unstoppable money. So yeah, we'll create the channels. We'll lay out the infrastructure, and me as a company, I don't need to do it, but one of the plebs or hopefully some very privacy focused people will open channels and get money where it's needed, and truly make this money unstoppable and cheap to send, borderless, what have you. It's really important for the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, it's growing and it's accelerated, but that doesn't mean it's not still growing, right? The Lightning Network specifically.
uh,
And
yeah,
I see it. I mean, the thesis of my podcast really is that Bitcoin, and specifically Bitcoin on Lightning, are changing the tide away from a system that, at least for 100 years, as some people like Saifedean would say, at least since 1914 or so, 1913, I should say, uh, when like the gold standard was kind of broken, um, and a central bank was instituted. But at least since 1971, when like that, there was no gold standard whatsoever. The gold peg um, was completely removed. Is there's just been financial repression and a out of control worldwide financial system that is continuously inflating people's the money supply, which is actually affecting people's ability to save. They're also instituting tighter and tighter restrictions on how much of your money you can remove from the bank, and who you can transact with. And so the thesis is that Bitcoin and Lightning is changing the tide away from that and giving more power to individuals. Um, and so one of the aspects of that is privacy, Jesse. And so it's really interesting because there's the double conundrum that you talked about earlier of like, the privacy can be good, but it may keep you from transacting or knowing who to transact with. So how do you guys see that? And and have you already seen social interactions that maybe have led to people being able to transact more freely? Um, this is open question for you.
yeah. Let's see. There's privacy. On the one hand, like mainly what the Amboss is looking at is public nodes, and that's nodes with a channel that is being actively announced. Um, so public channels are announced channels, private nodes are simply unannounced. Um, so that doesn't mean that it's completely private. Someone may be able to find out that you have a financial relationship there, but if I mean, Lightning is quite private. With every Bitcoin transaction you have, there's a record into perpetuity. With every Lightning transaction, there's not so much of a record. It's just between two parties. Now, other people, if you're announcing your channel, or even if you don't announce it, you might be able to tell that there was a financial relationship at one time. But as far as what you paid for or how much an individual transaction was, you know, for the most part, no outside party can figure that out. Um, so I would say pretty good. Uh, and I think it's a huge improvement. Um, yeah, is it all solved? Absolutely not.
No.
There's a ton more work to do uh, on privacy. When you were talking about uh, kind of this access to sound money, um, in the past year, I've spent 2 months in Istanbul, and being able to see firsthand the level of inflation there. It's it's pretty crazy. It's like what cost me a beer, the price I paid for a beer in October versus when I went back in March. Um, like the March price, the happy hour price was more expensive than what I paid back in October.
Wow.
So like that doesn't sound like much when I'm talking about a beer, like 20 lira versus 35 lira. But basically the price doubled. And when you're talking about like buying a house or buying a car or something to improve your life, that's incredibly damaging and disrupting. Um, but what excites me about Lightning is anyone can have access to sound money once more. Do you have an internet connection? And can you download an app on your smartphone? If so, you can access this, um, and we're here for it.
It's incredible. Like I was just on a business trip for my day job, and I was at least 1,000 miles away from home, and I was still able to just hop onto my Zeus app. I could see my both on chain and Lightning connected to my node. It was like, whoa, this is a totally different experience, than um, the traditional financial system. Because, like, yeah, I can open up a Wells Fargo app, sure, and I can see it, but I don't have control over Wells Fargo. But I've got control over my node, remote control, interestingly enough.
Kind of to compare those two, in order for me to have working bank cards in Turkey, I had to call each of my banks individually, wait on hold to let them know what dates I was going to be in which country and for how long, so that my bank cards would still work, so that they didn't just say, "Oh, that's fraud," and then one of the things I noticed was that I couldn't access their website when I was in Turkey because they're like, "Oh, we don't service this country." Um, so it was just like
Whoa, that's
it was
crazy.
very frustrating. Like, I mean, we as Bitcoiners, like, I think we're starting to take it for granted the fact that we have the borderless money and it works 24/7. Like we don't have to call anybody to ask permission. It just works.
It just works, and that was how it was designed, right? Like it was designed to be borderless,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
crazy and global. Um, well, I guess what I was maybe getting at is, so you guys are taking kind of publicly available information, um, as far as like publicly announced channels and the like, but then also giving people a chance to opt in and maybe give a little more information on themselves. Like no one has to use Amboss, but by giving over even some of that information, it's cool, I guess, at the root that the way people could give that information is simply to sign a message, and they don't have to give too much away. But then as they're creating their profile, that then just becomes all opt-in stuff, and it's like you don't have to use the Amboss, but if you want more information publicly available on you, here's a way to do that like you can't just do on Lightning Network in general. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah. There's there's reasons that you may want to share additional information from your node. Um, when it comes to liquidity, if I want to see if I can get a payment through, I'm going to have to iterate payment attempts. Can I get this? Can I pay through this route? Can I pay through this route? No. Can I pay through this route? And it's kind of this exhausting process. And and a lot of times, like when you're using like a consumer Lightning wallet, like they're just kind of like YOLOing out these funds. Like it, like we'll just try and make it work. Ah, it didn't work. But they're not like trying to find the cheapest route. Whereas if people shared that information, like you could have a really, really nice payment experience. And if people were sharing their balances, it would be possible to construct a route ahead of time and know that this route works. And then they don't have to experience the failures. Of course, there's privacy trade-offs. But if like kind of the incentive structure there is if people were to share that private information, uh, then they may become a preferential route because we would already know that this route works. Whereas otherwise, they're going to have to iterate payment attempts. Um, Now, is this like this is it would be a huge privacy leak. Um, but on the other hand, you would have a really good payment experience. And as like Amboss, we're trying to stay like very neutral on these things. If that's what people want a really successful payment network. Um, like we're interested in being a service provider to make that happen. But it's not necessary. Um, if you want to keep your privacy, keep it.
Yeah, yeah. See, this is an important point because here's what intrigues me so much about Amboss, and is that there are already companies who are trying to do this by probing and like producing that information. And you guys are like, okay, if someone wants to opt into this, they can. Um, but the added piece of this is like I've listened to you on a couple other podcasts, and it's like if we want to compete with the incumbent payment networks, payments can't fail 80% of the time. Or sorry, not 80. They can't be successful 80% of the time, or even 89, or it's got to be more
Yeah, they're
more
they're
successful.
they're competing for the last nine as far as their success probability. 99.999%. But at the same time, they're also charging, a percent and a quarter for a domestic transaction that doesn't settle, for 2 weeks or more, which is absolute insanity. We can make that payment settle far faster in a matter of seconds on the Lightning Network, and with decent probability. You may have to make another attempt, but yeah, we can we can outcompete them today on cost and final settlement.
And not having to carry a little piece of plastic around or whatever too.
You're already carrying your phone. My wallet gets bulky enough with business cards and the sometimes the amount of cash that I have to uh, carry. Yeah, I don't need the cards. They're kind of broken as a security model, anyways. That's
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
Well, because this is an important point, is like people are asking about, or people might say to respond to that, like, well, yeah, you don't need the card, you have your phone, but then you're trusting something like Apple Pay or the Apple Wallet. And for those who want something more open source, like they can't verify the software that's running on that. And then you also introduce a third party, another third party, on top of the third party of the credit card intermediary, the credit card company intermediary. And so it's like um, really streamlining who has access to routing the payments uh, will should decrease. It should be good for the consumer overall.
Yeah. Um, this is a really important point. I believe Alex Gladstein has written a bit about this, and it might be him or another person, but there was the experiment about paying for a dog toy, and like they don't have a dog or anything, but they use their Chase bank card, and they purchased a dog toy. Now Chase went and took that payment information. Oh, that's wonderful data. I see, Jon Crabtree, he bought this dog toy. So now I can serve him ads about dogs. He probably wants to buy a leash now, or some dog food, and I can serve him ads about that. So Chase went and took that, found the highest bidder for that information, and instantly sold your payment data. Um, Now, in the time of social credit scores and all of this, it's really important to keep your payment level privacy. So like it's time for us to move out of the time of surveillance capitalism, and simply say I can opt into the information that I share. Privacy is not about um, hiding information. It's about choosing when to share information.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is such an important piece of the puzzle. I mean, services that you use on a daily basis, not just your payment, but then they collude together, like Google plus payment networks. Amazon plus payment networks, and then all of a sudden, you're not only receiving junk email, that's a tax on your attention. You're receiving junk mail in the post, like paper. It's like how much money and how much waste is happening because of the way the incumbent legacy payment systems work. It's pretty significant, I would have to think.
Yeah. I think early on, I was having a moment of political advocacy with my political beliefs at the time, and I used Mike Pence's name to sign up and give a donation. Um, and then uh, I'm still getting junk mail with his name on it, um, like many,
Gosh.
many years later. So like, yeah, I would encourage that as an experiment. You don't have to give people your real name. You can give them a different name, and then you can realize just like, wow, they just sold that information. What I was donating to what I thought was a good cause. Okay, now they're trying to get that extra little bit and selling information on you. And these advertising companies will be able to aggregate information about you from all sorts of different sources and compile a profile of you that is dangerous. That might know more about you than you know about yourself.
Yikes. Yeah, scary. By the way, just a call out, not for advertising. I'm not paid to do this, but I think I see a little Amboss pin that you're wearing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is courtesy of BTC Pins. Yeah, so yeah,
Legend.
I gave these away at the Miami Bitcoin conference, and it was really awesome. So yeah, happy to rep it now. Um, Hopefully soon we'll
Are,
make them available for.
okay, that's what I was going to ask. Can we buy those from BTC pins?
Yeah, not quite yet. Yeah, getting an order together and figuring out what our company priorities are. Are we going to keep building awesome services for the Lightning Network, or put together a merch store? Um,
Hopefully both. But I know you're still running on uh, tight, So,
yeah, early startups.
but congrats on doubling. By the way, you mentioned that earlier, and I forgot to say it. Congrats on going from 2 to 4.
Thank
So,
you. Really, really happy with this team. I think we'll be able to pump out some really awesome stuff uh, pretty well.
maybe to just kind of land the plane a little bit, Jesse, what are you guys excited about? So Magma came out and actually I think was fairly like you guys did a pretty good job not really making too many waves until it dropped. So you really surprised the market, I think, in a good way. But what are you excited about Magma and maybe anything else, especially over the next, let's say, like 2 years, going up to the next halving, for instance, 2024?
Yeah. Yeah. I gotta give a great shout out to the plebs that were helping us test this, and they also kept it a secret. Yeah, we had a beta test of 2 weeks, and not a single mention of it on Twitter or anything. And then we dropped it like on the market. It's still like very much kind of in open beta, but yeah, it's available. And so far we've gotten 9 Bitcoin that has been matched up on that platform. So really excited, really happy with the response. Yes, it's not as good as liquidity ads, but it is interoperable between implementations. Um, and I forget what that last other piece was.
What are you guys excited about as a? By the way, here's the Keeson billboard I was looking at, and somewhere on here, there it is. People have earned 2,156,237 sats so far, which is cool.
Just a little
But
over
yeah,
two
what
weeks. Yeah. Um,
amazing.
as far as looking forward, I'm really excited about stablecoins coming to Lightning. Not personally because I love stablecoins, but just having other assets. I know that a lot of people are afraid of Bitcoin's volatility, um, and they would rather transact in dollars or something that they trust already. If they want to have exposure to the network, bringing those stable coins or bringing those other assets to Lightning um, gives them access to the network. Maybe not access to the asset that we all love and care about, um, but at least they can transact cheaper, and that's a massive, massive improvement. Um, so very much looking forward to Block Tank solution as well as Taro.
Yeah, and as long as that stable coin that they're using is not named Luna, they're probably going to be in okay shape.
Yeah,
We're recording at the end of just the week of carnage for Terra and Luna.
yeah. So hey, I really feel for them. I know a lot of people are hurting out there, and some really really tough lessons to be learned about trusting these algorithms and these uh, altcoins or stable coins. You don't really know the risks, so now's the time to do some homework, figure out what it is that you're really buying before you take that plunge. Uh, Bitcoin is secure, so this is why we love it.
I appreciated your tweet of like learnings, and the L was in parentheses just to say like some people have to learn before they can earn, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of people have gone through that. So um, yeah, no, I've been I'm following that very uh, yeah. It's intriguing, the idea of other assets on top of, or I guess traded via Lightning, and potentially the extra liquidity that that might bring to the network, um, that wasn't there, before.
Huge. Yeah, the additional channels that will need to be created and the additional infrastructure, that's all going to be awesome for Lightning. You don't need to use any of these other stable coins in order to benefit from that if you're talking about the development with Taro. So just by being a pleb running your routing node, you can still have dollars that are zipping through your node, but in if they're denominated in sats. So you can earn a little bit more routing income. Of course, all of the liquidity problems become tenfold, and uh, service providers like ourselves will be part of that solution.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about, I mean, one of the key aspects of Lightning is if you want to make a payment, the route that it's going through, those channels have to have the liquidity like level of that payment you're trying to make. If you don't have a direct channel open, with the person you're paying. And so the idea of like the amount of liquidity that might be required to send a Lightning payment of very high value, that that is an interesting problem that if people can solve it, they're probably going to make a lot of money off that.
Just looking at remittance markets, that's a market of 589 billion that's transacted via remittances every single year.
Wow.
Right now, the Lightning Network is at current Bitcoin price levels, $114 million. We've got a lot of growing to do.
Yeah. Well, you guys are well poised with the information you're providing to help the Lightning Network grow and grow yourselves. So kudos to you for the business idea, and really, as far as I can tell so far, just incredible execution to see this verified ownership graph continue to rise. The information that you guys are putting on to your website and making available to people. So kudos to you guys on that.
Thanks so much, John. And thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, I do have one more question. How did that Turkish coffee turn out that was on your Twitter a few days ago? You said you're still perfecting it.
Yeah, it was delicious. My parents are hooked on it. Currently, like living startup life and staying with them. But yeah, so I think the thing with Turkish coffee, you have to get the foam perfect. Um, and if it doesn't have foam, it doesn't even count as Turkish coffee, is basically what I'm told. And it's a matter of timing. You've got like a couple of seconds to like remove it from the fire in order to actually get that foam just perfect. Um, Still working on it. But but yeah, I'll keep practicing, and every day I can practice, and yeah, my family will love it.
That's awesome. Not only a science and math guy, but also an art guy.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Jesse, for coming on the show. And yeah, look forward to see the continued growth of Amboss.
Thanks so much, John. Really appreciate it.
Fantastic conversation. I think the theme of Lightning being a network that can lead to greater privacy, but there's a tension between that privacy and the information needed in order to become a good routing node, in order to place yourself more at the center of the Lightning Network graph and have more payments routed through you, and to be closer. How do you position yourself to be the shortest hop between a person sending a payment and receiving it? And so Amboss really stepped in and is that explorer that can give you information on who are the most connected nodes, where is the liquidity, and then on top of that, being able to send messages through the KeySend billboard, being able to see how many sats have been earned through Magma, being able to see what groups a node is part of. For instance, are they part of Plebnet? Are they part of 21? And so forth. And so the combination of ThunderHub and that being an open source solution, and then adding in information from Amboss is really, really fascinating to think through. And really appreciated his thoughts as well on Lightning Network and privacy, especially compared to the credit debit card system. When you think about the amount of, because that is centralized, has all that information, and is also marketing out with other companies. By that, I mean the credit and debit card networks. now your information is not just with the credit and debit card company, but it's being sold out so that those people can come in. And the idea of Lightning Network being a potential antidote to surveillance capitalism is a really exciting and important point. And so that being said, I really appreciate the conversation with Jesse. One thing that I think is really interesting and should be noted is the continual development of podcasting 2.0. And so with that, Jesse has shared his nodes pub key. So he will be receiving 40% of the sats streamed from this episode. And then I will be receiving 40%. Fountain will be receiving 1%. And then podcasting 2.0, the podcasting index, will be receiving 9%. So looking forward to you guys streaming in sats here to support podcasting 2.0 and to support Jesse at Amboss and for all of the awesome conversation that we had today. So super exciting. And I am not on Amboss yet, so I'm going to mosey on over and sign up and claim my node. So until next time, you should go check out, do the same, and keep stacking sats. They still are super cheap. And the point of this is we actually don't know how expensive or what to price sats in, because we're using this crazy volatile fiat standard. No one can verify anything in the fiat standard. People are trying with charts, graphs, M2 money supply, all these sorts of metrics. But the fact of the matter is it's a yardstick that keeps changing, or a meter stick if you're from the rest of the world. It's a meter stick that keeps changing on us. And so we actually don't know how to value the Bitcoin in fiat right now. And so it is severely undervalued, is actually the interesting point here that people need to understand, is that Bitcoin is massively undervalued because actually at the moment, the fiat system is extremely overvalued. And that's where people are spending the majority of their brain space, is trying to convert this into the fiat standard that they're a part of. And I actually read an interesting tweet from Beautyon today. There was someone who was saying that fiat is actually a better measurement of value than Bitcoin because of Bitcoin's fixed supply. And Beautyon's tweet was, it was scathing, but it was a really, really crucial point. And that crucial point is this. Number one, that just because you think fiat is a better measurement doesn't mean it's 100% correct. And second, thinking about Bitcoin through the fiat lens is using language that has been given to you and that you've grown up in, because everyone's grown up in this fiat standard. And so to extricate ourselves from that and think about Bitcoin on its own terms, not using the language that was given to us via fiat, what a powerful, powerful thought. What a powerful thought to think through and be able to extricate yourself from the fiat standard and fiat ways of thinking. And so step number two, there's actually today, as I'm recording this outro, a summit in El Salvador with 44 countries, 32 of which I believe are central banks and 12 of which are economic advisors, something along those lines. And there's all this hustle and bustle about one of the largest fiat to crypto exchanges just yesterday said Bitcoin is not a great payments solution, a great payment system. And Beautyon said, just because one person at one exchange who happens to be more interested in NFTs and garbage like Solana than these countries potentially adopting an entirely new standard, that person can't change the transformation from fiat to Bitcoin. They just can't. Furthermore, they have no say in this group of 45 countries, 44 plus El Salvador. these leaders that represent over 1 billion people. He has no say because his exchange can't even serve those countries. And so when the transformation happens, it's going to actually crush him. What a powerful thought. If you want Bitcoin signal, you've got to follow Beauty on, and you got to keep up to date with what he's saying. And that's a person who knows how to think in Bitcoin on its terms, not in fiat terms. And so I think it's massively important because I had a bunch of people reach out to me this past week and say, hey, listen, are you okay? Because Bitcoin has gone from, 69,000 at its height to, it's recovered, but it was all the way down to 25 and now back up to over 31. But again, this is just thinking in fiat terms, the exchange rate, when I can roll a private key, my 24 words, and I can move that Bitcoin to the control of that phrase, seed phrase, of those 24 words for this amount of fiat. And it's only because the majority of us are still getting paid in fiat. But making that move and saying, okay, listen, it went down to 20, but I can still use all the Bitcoin that I have the private keys for, no matter how I want, whenever I want, and no one can say anything to me about how to use that. And so, and who to send that to, and what to use it for. And I'm not even talking illegal things here. If I want to send it somewhere because I need fresh water that's not infected with bacteria or viruses or whatever, I can do that if that person accepts it, and they can send me that water. And the only thing maybe they could attack is that supply line between the water coming to me, but they can't attack the payment. They might be able to attack that person. They might be able to attack me as a person, but they can't attack the payment being made. So this is the important thing to think about with this, is that I'm not valuing that in fiat terms anymore. I'm no longer undervaluing Bitcoin by valuing it in overvalued fiat. So that's an important point to make. And plus, you can actually gain control over more sats as the fiat price goes down. So in any way, that's a rant, kind of my solo rip. My friend Def over at Talking Bits does these from time to time, but this is a really important point that I just had to make. Thanks once again for joining us. Like, subscribe, send sats, please, to any of them. Please send boosts and comments. I love reading it. I want to know that what I'm doing here is making a difference. Okay, so this is really exciting as well, because for the next 4 shows, Nick over at Fountain has requested that Changing the Tide reads out 4 boosts over the next 4 shows, so 1 each, that we want to specifically call out. And the winning boost, the one that we're calling out, actually gets 50,000 sats. And so I wanted to call out someone earlier this week at Right Hand Sun on Fountain, who listened to session 22 with Jimmy Song on Thank God for Bitcoin. And at Right Hand Sun boosted 1,000 sats. Thanks so much. Said, really enjoyed the discussion about Bitcoin from a Christian perspective. I hadn't heard about the Thank God for Bitcoin conference before listening to this. Hope I can make it sometime. And yeah, if you're not at Right Hand Sun and others, if you're not following Jordan Bush at JM Bush on Twitter, he was the one who kind of ran with things on this one. Another co-author of Jordan's, Jimmy Song, was there. But then also some other co-authors, Gabe Higgins, for instance, he did a conversation with some folks on, I believe it was the nonprofit side. So I think he was the one asking, like Mike Peterson and Charlene Federico and a couple others, the gentleman from Bitcoin Lake as well. And so these hopefully become more and more ubiquitous over time. That's, I think, Jordan's hope. hopefully. We have at least one a year. And it was a great one-day event, but even some of the speakers, for instance, Pierre Rochard, Giacomo Zucco, were there talking. I mentioned Charlene already, Charlene Federico, talking specifically about Bitcoin here in the United States, in helping people in, let's say, lower socioeconomic conditions who are using Bitcoin right now today to become savers and change their financial outlook. And then she mentioned also with her husband being Nigerian and her knowing Heritage, her co-host of Bitcoin in Nigeria podcast, talking about Bitcoin use cases in Nigeria. Very cool. So anyway, at Right Hand Son, you won 50,000 sats. Thanks for that awesome boost and comment. Glad you learned something.